Hey guys, how's it going? So, we're gonna do this. This is week 1 of 2021 vlog. And so I'm just gonna take you guys through what I'm doing every week to kind of just show you how I fit gardening into my everyday life. And so, I made myself a latte, and today what I did was I'm going to be starting seeds. Specifically tomatoes and peppers. So I went this morning to my favorite garden store and I got seed starting mix, and I'm just prepping all of my supplies to start seeds. So I want to talk to you about the varieties that I'm starting. I am in Central Texas, Zone 8B. And so my timing is going to look a lot different than yours. And if you're in a different zone or even in a different part of the country, you plant here in Central Texas, you plant tomatoes about mid-March, and you plant peppers early April. So I am getting a jump start on things, and growing a lot more than I did last year. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm feeling good about it. So yeah, let's run through the varieties. We're gonna start with tomatoes. So also some of these seeds, I have a very sordid history with my love of seeds. When I started gardening, I actually got the heirloom organic seed collection from Eden Brothers, and my boyfriend didn't know that, and he got me an heirloom seed vault. So I have a ton of seeds. So really the only seeds that I bought were kind of like specialty seeds. I already had a bunch of these. So first things first, tomatoes. We're gonna start with these seeds. These are from the seed vault that my boyfriend got me for Christmas last year. So these are Roma tomatoes. These are just your standard Roma tomato. I grew these last year. They were extremely productive. Excited to grow those. You have your just general beefsteak or slicer tomato. And then Rutgers tomatoes. I did not grow these last year, and I'm not exactly sure what they are and why they're special. And then the large cherry red tomatoes. These were also very prolific, and I'm pretty pumped for those. And then we have the beefsteak tomatoes from Eden Brothers. So I think I'm gonna pit some of these beefsteaks against each other and see which ones grow best. I did not do well with beefsteaks last year because they were wedged in between my cherries and my Romas, and they just didn't win in the competition of nutrients. So there's that. And then I also got, because I loved growing tomatoes so much, those were the only tomato varieties I had last year, all red, just your standard Roma beefsteak cherry tomatoes. So I decided I loved growing tomatoes so much that I actually bought an heirloom seed vault from Botanical Interests. I do find that this is a good way to try new varieties. So what we have here are more beefsteaks. There's gonna be a lot of beefsteaks. San Marzano tomatoes. So these are pretty popular. These are a really good paste tomato that's used in a lot of Italian dishes. I have heard that they can be a little temperamental to grow, so we'll see how these do. Golden Jubilee. So these are going to be a yellow slicer. Pretty excited about those. Cherokee Purple. Also really excited about these. Another slicer. These are like your big fat heirlooms. These are Brandywine red and yellow. And then these are Black Crim. So they kind of have this like dark purpley blue outside, and then they're red on the inside. And then red and yellow pear blend. So that's all from the Botanical Interest Seed Vault. Pretty pumped for those because it'll just be fun to have different heirloom varieties. And then a few like really unique ones that I bought from Baker Creek. Baker Creek is known for their rare seeds. One of them is a Sunrise Bumblebee cherry tomato. So this is a striped orange cherry tomato. And then this one is a Paul Robeson. This one is actually a taste test competition winner. I think I said that right. So I'm really pumped for this one. It's supposed to have a really rich, like sweet, smoky flavor. Pretty pumped for this one. And then this is kind of a weird one. I don't know why I got these. These are called Barry's Crazy Cherries. They're specifically bred to have these like giant clusters of tomatoes. there's that. So all in all, that is 15 different types of seeds. I think if you count up all the beefsteaks, it's probably only 12 different actual varieties of tomatoes. And my plan is that I'm actually gonna grow all the heirloom or like the really unique ones in the backyard with a newly established bed. Hopefully I don't kick myself for that one. And then I'm gonna grow like all of my standard ones like beefsteaks, Romas, and the red cherry tomatoes. Those all grow in my community plot. And the reason for that being there are a lot of gardeners in the community plot, and it's the nature of the beast is sometimes things get stolen, and sometimes the things that get stolen are the really cool unique things. So I would like to keep all of my cool heirloom tomatoes to myself. And then the other thing that I'm starting today that is not a tomato or a pepper but kind of like runs along the same vein are tomatillos. So these are the Rio Grande Verde tomatillo. I'm really excited for these. Tomatillos tend to do really well in drought. And I also want to play around with some green tomatillo sauce and salsas that I make from scratch. So we got tomatillos. Along with growing some like heirloom varieties of tomatoes, I kind of always try and give myself a culinary goal. So this last year, my culinary goal was to make my own pizza sauce. Did that multiple times over. Loved it. Me and my boyfriend do Pizza and Wine Friday every Friday. So it was really fun having homemade tomato sauce and marinara, whatever you want to call it, for our pizza every Friday. So this year I wanted to do peppers. My peppers I was excited about last year, but they just weren't as successful as I wanted them to be. So I wanted to give them another try. I also want to try and make some hot sauce. I want to make some like fresh salsas. I got some like peppers that are really good to eat on their own. So this is the haul of peppers. And then all of these peppers are from Baker Creek because they had specifically a couple of varieties I wanted to try, so I just rounded out my order. These are Serrano peppers. Now I actually prefer to use Serranos over jalapenos. I'd say like 70% of the time. They tend to have more flavor. They are a little bit hotter, but to me sometimes jalapenos can kind of be hot without any real pepper flavor. And then shishito peppers. So I had never actually had shishito peppers until I moved to Austin. And they're a super tasty appetizer. If you just like blister them, like a little parm, and then like serve them with a garlic aioli for dipping. They're so good. They're just so good. And then this is one of the unique varieties I wanted to try from Baker Creek. These are called habanadas, and these are peppers specifically bred to take the heat out of a habanero. So that's why it's called a habanada, like not a heat, habanada. So I'm really excited to try these. They're supposed to have a really good fruity flavor. So I'm pretty pumped about these. This is one I grew last year. These are Craig's Grande jalapeno. So these are really big fat jalapenos that would be really good for like poppers, or you can just slice them up and also eat them in a salsa. I didn't think they were too hot for a jalapeno. Like to me, they had flavor, so I'm pretty excited to grow these again. And then this is called a nata pino. And so this one, just like the habanada, is gonna be a jalapeno without the heat. So I'm just excited to try it. Should just be like a pepper, or maybe a sweet pepper, or maybe like a slightly spicy pepper. Not really sure what to expect. It'll be interesting. And then poblano peppers. These are amazing. I would love to make chili rellenos with poblano peppers, so pretty pumped about these ones. And then in terms of one more hotter pepper, this is an Anaheim pepper. I'm really excited to see these as well. These are supposed to have pretty large yields, and these are also just really good for like hot sauces or you know, salsa or anything like that. I really love to cook Mexican food. Well, American Mexican food. Probably not traditional actual Mexican food. I like to cook American Mexican food because that's what I know. And so I'm excited to make some original sauces and salsas with all of the hot peppers. And then in terms of like sweet peppers, like bell peppers, I got the mini bell pepper mix. So these have red, yellow, green, and then I think they call them chocolate, but they're like this really deep, like purpley brown. And so excited for those. King of the North peppers. So I actually chose these for a weird reason. So these are actually really good for northern like territories where your summer growing season is actually shorter. I did this as an experiment because Texas it gets really hot in August. Like it's hard to keep anything alive in August. It's like 100 degrees consistently. You don't really get a break. It's a big drought season. So that's what I found was the issue with my bell peppers last year is they just weren't fruiting in time. So I'm hoping that because I went with this variety that is supposed to fruit fairly early, maybe my hypothesis is really dumb. And then the last pepper is the orange bell pepper. I really like orange bell peppers, so I am excited for all of that. So those are all of the things that are getting started today, are tomatoes and peppers, and I will show you my grow setup. I don't have all of my supplies yet, so it's not completely set up. But before I show it to you, I just want to kind of have a little bit of a disclaimer. You do not have to start seeds, have a grow setup, any of those things to enjoy gardening. I actually went shopping last year for herbs and pepper plants at a local nursery, and I remember calling my mom and just telling her, like, this is actually really enjoyable, because sometimes like the whole seed starting thing can be really stressful because you invest a lot of time and effort and then something goes wrong. I had a lot of issues last year because it was my first time starting seeds and it was just crazy, and so yeah, kind of just want to give that disclaimer that if you enjoy going to the nursery and if you enjoy just picking out plants and putting them in the ground, that does not make you any less of a gardener. I think it's really easy to kind of think that you have to like rise up to these expectations of doing all this craziness. I personally get a lot of satisfaction out of the fact that I took something from a seed all the way through its life cycle to the plate. That's why the name of this channel is Seed to Plate. I really enjoy that process. It's very meditative for me, and that's pretty much it. But if you just want to go shopping for plants that are already planted, that's amazing. As long as you're gardening and you're growing food, and that's what matters. So as I talk about seed starting and setups and all this stuff, that's kind of point one that I want to address. Point two is what I'm going to show you today is like a leveled up version of how I started. How I started my seeds. I don't know if I have any like pictures or videos from last year when I did this, but how I started my seeds was on a cookie sheet with like cheap plastic trays from Amazon, and construction lights from Home Depot, and it was all on the floor. I literally got these clamp construction lights that I clamped to my, we were still living in an apartment. I had blinds that, like go across the slider, and I literally clipped the clamp for the light onto the blinds so it would shine down and I could move it up and down as the plants got bigger. And then once it got warm enough, I used my balcony to like have some things outside, and it was madness, like absolute madness. And even when I started my seedlings before we moved into the house, when I started my seedlings in the fall, I literally had like just lights hanging from like everywhere. So you could, if you wanted to grow seeds, you could probably grow seeds for less than, I want to say like $60 or $70. And that's including like the seeds, which you gotta remember, seeds aren't that expensive. Each packet of these is like $2.75, $3. And so you could probably realistically start seeds for under $60. As long as they are getting enough light and the light's really close to the seed, and then you move the light up or you move the seed down, that's super important. I just started with these construction clamp lights and daylight bulbs. Wasn't that expensive. And I started my spring and summer garden last year like that, and I also started my fall plants like that. So I'm definitely leveling up a little bit this year because I just want it to be more organized, and it's just time to level up for me. I like investing into this hobby, but you certainly don't have to. You do not have to do that at all. Now that I showed you everything that I am going to be growing in terms of tomatoes and peppers and tomatillos, next, I won't go through the whole process of like starting seeds. There's 1,000,001 videos out there on the internet about starting seeds. All you really need to know is you need obviously like trays to start them in. Seed starting mix is a good thing to have. I use Fox Farm. I'm using Fox Farm this year, but honestly, I have used I think I've used like at least 3 different brands of seed starting mix, and like they've all worked. So I don't think I necessarily have a preference. So just get some like seed starting mix. It's not that expensive. And the seeds, light, water, it's like not that complicated. I'm not gonna show you how I do everything. Do label them. I think that's a big one. 2 big lessons for me in seed starting from last year. Label everything, because you're not gonna remember. You're not gonna remember, and that's fine. Label everything. The other one is just plant 1 or 2 freaking seeds per cell. I don't know what I thought was gonna happen last year, but I would literally sprinkle like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 seeds in a cell, and then they all freaking grew. And so then I didn't want to kill them because I just can't bring myself to do things like that. And so I sat there and I dug them out with a pen, and I untangled them by the roots, and I replanted them, and then I donated them to a educational program here in Austin called Peas that has gardens at schools, and they teach kids about plants, and it was a whole thing. But I had probably 60 cherry tomato plants because I was an idiot. So just plant 1 or 2 seeds per cell. If it doesn't germinate in a few days, just stick another one in there. It's not a big deal. A couple of days of growth isn't going to impact your final transplanting. And just label everything. So yeah, let me show you the setup. Okay guys, so that took me about 20 minutes. The wire rack that I'm going to show you, it's a little dark over there, so that's why I'm telling you about it. The wire rack that I'm going to show you was about $60 and the lights were about $50. So for just over $100, that's kind of what this setup is going to cost you just in setup. So each one of these lights is an LED. And then there's 3 lights per shelf. So I'm really pumped about this. This is kind of like next level. I also do just have this I literally have this set up in the corner of our living room. I'm very lucky that my significant other indulges all of my plant obsessions. So yeah, we're gonna get these seeds started, and I'm gonna stick the trays in. I already started making the tags to label everything, and that's what I'm gonna be doing tonight. And then I will show you in the vlog next week any seeds that have started to germinate and any issues I run into. So stay tuned next week for week 2 2021 vlog, and Thanks for joining. Happy gardening.